Hi, everybody. So, I had so much fun reviewing Children of the Corn yesterday that I decided I want to do Carrie today. I had actually tried to live stream it last week, but unfortunately, my stream didn't go through. So, I'm going to try it again. Um, so right now, I'm watching the shower scene, and it's that weird 70s jiggle. I mean, I'm looking at full frontal nudity here, like this is a little bit odd for me. What? Sorry. I just got a notification from my phone. I don't know if somebody's trying to call me. I don't care. I'm just going to let it go to voicemail. So here's all the weird twinkly piano music and this like weird sunny oboe, I think it is, that's playing, and Carrie's washing herself. So, yeah, I decided to review Carrie because obviously it's a very classic film in the Stephen King film oeuvre. I just like saying that word. Actually, it should be oeuvre. But as you all know, it was Carrie was Stephen King's first novel, published in 1974. And he was working as a high school teacher at the time, and his wife was working in a donut shop. So they were quite poor. They lived in a trailer in the middle of nowhere, and he was trying to write horror stories, trying to get something happening. And as again, this is a pretty well-worn story that he wrote it, didn't like it, threw it out. His wife fished it out of the garbage, said he had something here. And she would help him with the female stuff. Now, one of the things that I find a little bit problematic is that Stephen King, I mean, he almost wrote it kind of on a dare that he generally wrote about guys, right? I mean, they say write what you know, and Stephen King really does write from a place of what he knows. He, when he was a young writer with a young family, he goes to a creepy hotel. He decides to write about that. He's working in a laundry. He decides to write about a haunted laundry machine. He's working in a factory. He decides to write about the rats that somebody told him about were in the lower part of the factory. So, I mean, he's very much a write what you know kind of guy. So a bunch of high school girls and this young woman getting her period for the first time is very, very foreign to him. And what I find, and I mean, obviously, with some help from his wife, he did okay with it. But I think that he describes it as a story of female empowerment. And I think that's what I find frustrating about when men write women, is most of what men know about women is that women get their periods. One of the best things that I've ever read, one of the best commentaries about periods, was from, I think it was shared by Single Dad Laughing, but I don't know if it was written by him. You can look it up online, and he writes about the soggy burrito in my pants. And unfortunately, he had some kind of surgery on his ass. And he was bleeding profusely and had to wear maxi pads, because if he didn't, he was going to bleed through his pants. And his doctor tells him, don't try to be a hero. Go get yourself some maxi pads because you're going to bleed through. And at first he tried it, and then he realized that, yep, he was bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And it lasted a good week, and it was similar to what he thought women go through on their periods. And he found it horrifying and disgusting, and like his body betrayed him, and unfortunately without the positivity of menstruation, which is that women can bear children, and it's one of the things that gives females, no, let's not even call it females, I call us womb bearers, because yes, there are trans men that still bear a uterus, and so I call it, so uterus bearers can be impregnated and have children. And it's a very powerful thing. But where I find it problematic is that it is not the only thing. It's not the only thing that makes us women, and it's not the only source of power for us. And when you reduce us to strictly a biological function, it does leave out agency. It leaves out, and calling it a source of empowerment, it leaves out agency. It leaves out social respectability. It leaves out what we can do. Not what's, I have a serious phobia about pregnancy. It's one of the reasons that I actually hate menstruation so much. And there is actually a word for it. It's called tokophobia, and tokophobia. And I am repulsed and horrified by all things related to pregnancy. So if female empowerment is the ability to do that, that to me is a source of tremendous horror. It's not a source of empowerment for me. It's one of the things that I think makes me weak, because I have to be tied to that, and that it could happen at any point. Now I'm getting to an age now where it's not going to happen ever. Yay! Menopause! Come on, baby! But that's one of the things that I've always sort of side-eyed Carrie about, and other writers who seem to just define women by menstruation, and it's such a big thing. And I can't speak for anybody else, but menstruation, it's something that I try to not think about very much. It's a couple of days a month, and it's really gross, and I hate it, and the rest of the time I just spend my life, like a cat in the bath, like, no, I want to get away from it. So to try and find empowerment from it, or find it as an identifying thing, or and men are horrified and disgusted by it, but they shouldn't be, because they don't really have to deal with it that much. Okay, no, I think that's unfair too. But male writers, they never seem to be presented. They never seem to present characters well, and especially when they reduce women to this sort of biological function and then try to understand it. I just, I go back and forth from what the hell to that doesn't make any sense to no, that's not how that works. So that's why I've always kind of found the whole menstruation thing just a little bit strange. Although King did go out of his way to also try to look at sort of genetic and biological components and chromosomal contributions and stuff like that. The same thing with superpowers, and the same thing that a lot of writers do when they try to say that something's inherited or something is very powerful. Okay, so Carrie's just gone home and made that little shitty kid fall off his bike. I thought that was one of the funnier parts of the movie. and it's also sort of foreshadowing for what's to come, because somebody crosses her, makes fun of her. Boom. They're going to be in trouble. And Betty Buckley did that weird creepy Carrie voice, and no child has ever talked like that. Okay, so here's Margaret White in her long dress and going up to other people's houses and trying to pass on her religious stuff. And one of the things, you want to hear something really hilarious? During the winter, my sister has a jacket, and then she has a pashmina that she puts over, and she has big poofy hair. And she's wandering around, and I looked at her, and I just said, you look like Carrie's mom when you dress like that. She's like, shut up. But we have this running joke that she looks just like Margaret White when she's wandering around with her poofy hair and her pashmina in the wintertime. So anyway, Piper Laurie was absolutely spectacular in this movie. Margaret White has probably got to be one of the scariest villains ever. I always find a compelling villain to be the one that thinks that they're doing something, that they're doing what is right. And Margaret White is so zealous and so set in her ideas about sin and her ideas about right and wrong that she is violent about it. And that's what's so scary about her. So, okay, let's fast forward this a little bit. I'm going to try to get through this quickly because I only have about 20, maybe 30 minutes here. I'm already at 10, so. Okay, so here's Carrie. She's just gotten home. Uh-oh, Margaret White's getting the phone call. She's got their period. And she hangs up the phone, and then they have a fight. And Margaret flips out and she sends her to her closet. And this is very telling about their absolutely horrible relationship and how terrible she is to Carrie. So they have a fight. Oh, she beats her. She's terrible. And she prays with her. So now she's locked. Now poor Carrie's locked in the closet. I believe I saw the movie when I was really young. Like, Carrie was my very first adult novel that I ever read. I was about 8 years old. And I had seen the movie on Channel 50. When I was a kid, I grew up in Sarnia, which is on the Michigan border. And so most of our television came out of the States. And so I watched the Detroit station an awful lot. And it was called Channel 50, and it later became a Fox affiliate. So, and now this was way before, phone news or any of that, when Fox was still a fledgling TV station. And this was, The Simpsons and Married with Children and all that stuff in the late 80s. That it was actually a pretty good channel at the time. But before that, Channel 50 largely had a lot of syndicated shows, and every night they had a movie. And every Saturday they had horror movies. It was called the Saturday Shocker. So I saw a lot of really cheesy horror movies when I was a kid. And then there was also on Channel 20, there was another set of horror movies, and then there was like a thriller double feature. So every weekend was like horror when I was a kid. But of course it was pretty sanitized for TV. But I remember that was one of the very few parts of this movie that really scared the crap out of me, was that horrible statue. And it's not Jesus, it's actually Saint Sebastian. I was watching the commentary, and I guess one of the set designers had gone into a thrift store, and he found this horrible statue with the glow in the dark eyes, and he brought it back, and everybody just thought it was hilariously just evil looking thing, so they had to throw it in there. So that's the story of how Saint Sebastian is in that closet rather than good old Jeebus. So now Carrie has broken her mirror, and Margaret's run upstairs. She's holding the door shut. Weird things are happening. Okay, let's go on. Okay, go away, Facebook or YouTube. You got ads. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we've got a broken. So so now Carrie's in class, and she's got a big crush on Tommy Ross. And Tom, you know what? Okay, whatever else you can say about Tommy, he was a good guy, and he was pretty cute for his day. Although, I mean, you can't get over William Catt as the greatest American hero, which is the other major role that we know him from. So this whole scene in the classroom is pretty cute. And that's one thing that we do notice that I enjoyed a lot about the sort of the 70s movies, is that we spend time with the characters. It's not all quick cuts and jump scares and trying to get someplace. We're spending time with them. We're seeing how they're how they react to each other. And there's some graffiti about Carrie. So here they are doing their detention in the gym. And in the book, she was Miss DeJardin. In the movie, she's Miss Collins. And I'm not sure why they changed that. I think I remember reading it somewhere, but do you think I can remember it? Of course not. Probably, maybe just to make it less, French and foreign. I don't know. Americans have this thing about French names, even if it's a predominantly French area. Okay, so Chris is trying to rebel and get everybody else to rebel, but because everybody wants to keep their prom tickets, they're going to do their, they're going to do their detention, and now they're all working out. And again, this is the 70s jiggle era. They're all wearing these athletic outfits, but they're like tiny little shorts, and everybody's jumping up and down. Nobody's wearing a bra. So I mean, this is so 70s. So, and they're working out, and they're working out, and running up and down in place. I'm exhausted just watching them. And so now Carrie is going in the library. I love the scene because we don't do this anymore. You know, we all just go on the internet, read Wikipedia. The card catalog is like such an artifact. I loved the card catalog when I was a kid. I was always looking through it. I spent so much time in the library when I was a kid. That was my favorite place. So here's Tommy coming up to Sue. This is where Sue asks him to take Carrie to the prom. And in the book, they had actually just, they were having sex in the back of a car, and that was when she decided to ask him. And there was like a really good scene about how, you know, Carrie even, or Tommy even asked, he's like, what did she ever do to you? And I think that was, I thought that was really well, I think that was a really good character moment, because one of the things about bullying, I'm sure most of the people watching either were bullied or were bullies in school. I know that I was bullied. I'm sure that I bullied other kids. I'm sure that I bullied other kids, whether I thought I was or not. But Stephen King wrote about the kids that everybody crapped on. And he was right that there really is one or two in every school. There was one in my school, and I mean, even the unpopular kids, just this poor kid was just treated like absolute crap. I remember him very well. He was really smart, but he had absolutely no social skills, and he had allergies. And he had bad skin. Oh, and his allergies were just terrible. That I always felt kind of bad for him, because he would sit there all of September and October just snotting and snorting. Just felt so bad for the kid. But I mean, that's something you can't help, right? But it certainly didn't do anything for his popularity. But he was that one kid that everybody crapped on and made fun of and mocked and pushed around. And looking back, though, given his grades and what I know about Asperger's syndrome, I think he might have been an Aspie, because he could focus and just, you know, memorize information. And he did have that quality. And the way he moved, he had that weird robotic move that Aspies have. So I've always wondered, well, I mean, obviously not enough to go and, you know, try to contact him, but I did look him up on Facebook when I discovered Facebook, and I started looking up everybody. It looks like he eventually did get married, and he looked incredibly happy. So, hey, good for him, right? His life turned out okay. So, okay, so now Sue and Tommy are studying, and we just had a scene with Tommy and her boyfriend. And by the way, I love John Travolta. I always have. Probably always will. He's one of my all-time favorite actors. I love him in anything he's in. No matter how cheesy and ridiculous. Even if he's an absolute douche of a character, as Billy is. If you ever want a great review, the Kill Count does a review of Carrie. He says, so Chris is going down on Billy. It's like, her diction would not be that clear. Actually, oh, come to think of it, that was a Norm MacDonald bit. He says, so I took this, I got this phone sex, and the woman says, I'm licking your ass. And I'm like, what's with the perfect diction? Oh, anyway, just made me think of that. So then this is where she talks about Carrie, and of course Billy's like, who? So here's Carrie in the library, and Tommy comes up and asks her to the prom. This was another really well crafted scene, because Stephen King always said that he didn't quite trust Sue's motivations by telling her boyfriend to ask him to the prom. And yeah, you know, anytime a guy talked to me in high school, my first response was, What do you want? And 9 times out of 10, yeah, it was some kind of joke. So, oh, that just reminds me. There was this kid. So when I was in my last year of high school, one of my friends, she was the first one of us to get her own place. And she was on student welfare, and she was living in her, she was renting a room. And then there was a woman upstairs who was, she had a kid, and she had kind of a revolving door of boyfriends. The current one was this big lug named Rocky. Oh, and everybody got scabies at the same time. This is right when I started hanging out there. I'm like, charming place. So anyway, oh, actually, that's right. Rocky was another one of the boarders that lived downstairs, and then he started sleeping upstairs. Anyway, not important. So, of course, this being the first place everybody, her own place. So, of course, we would all hang out there. Because, I mean, it was safe, it was inside, there was furniture, there was a TV, and everybody did a lot of dope back then. So anyway, where I was going with this, that there was this one night, there was this little shitbag. These guys are like the bane of my existence. He's the same type of guy that hangs out with my neighbor who vandalized my car. These little shitbags. And this guy, his name was Gary, and he was friends with this other guy, John. Now, my friend, Julie, whose place it was, she was interested in John. But Gary decided he wanted to play a joke on me by telling me that John liked me. Oh, he likes you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, no. Because, like, he and Julie have been making goo-goo eyes at each other all night. What the hell are you doing here? Because, I mean, obviously I'm not interested in any of it. But, yeah, he kept going on and on all night. And, of course, the next day it all comes out, and it's all this, trying to make all this drama and all this ridiculous nonsense. And I was just like, go away. Just go away. Let me enjoy my buzz in peace. Like... But that guy, later, my friend Leanna was sleeping, and he decided he was going to take it upon himself to climb into bed with her. And she told him to get out, and I think he tried to grope her or something, and she ended up taking him to court and winning. So, yeah, little shitbags like that, you got to fight back. No matter how it is, you got to fight back. And whether you do it through legal means or you pull a Carrie on them, when people try to bully you, don't mess around. Don't let them. So anyway, Tommy never had bad intentions though, but I mean, you can only put up with it so many times, and you're going to believe that this is just more of the same. So, okay, so what part are we at here? This is part 9 already. So now he pursues Carrie home, and okay, so this is the scene where Billy goes and kills the pig. I always felt bad for the poor pigs. I know it's just like the weirdest thing, but so they bash him in, and now Carrie's begging her mom. She wants to go to the prom, and Carrie throws the tea right in her mom throws the tea right in her face. So Margaret is horrible. And another scene that I liked in the book, Carrie was an epistolary novel, as you know. So there was the main story, which was short for a novel. So Stephen King had to pad it out by adding all these like articles and letters and reports and things like that. And one of my favorite scenes was, it was a section of Sue's book where Sue said that she wanted to, Tommy wanted to maybe take her to the local teen hangout and have a burger and a dime root beer. And Sue said, this is the girl that everybody thinks she's a monster. She wanted to be home early so her mama wouldn't worry. But we know how that all turned out. That's so sad. So, and speaking of the book too, just a little piece of trivia. I don't know if anybody cares, but I've written 4 unpublishable novels, and my first novel I wrote for NaNoWriMo, and the structure of it was epistolary. So you have the main story. But you also have letters and reports and things like that, emails, because it's set in the 90s. And it's it really, I think structurally, I definitely had Carrie in mind when I was writing it. Not in terms of subject matter, obviously, but in terms of the structure. So I just thought that would be a little bit of trivia. And here's everybody getting ready for the prom. I like this scene too. Just it wasn't in the book. It was in the movie, where the guys go and try in their ridiculous powder blue tuxes with the ruffles. That is just so 70s. I love it. So now we have Carrie doing her makeup. Okay, this is one thing that I call bullshit on. Girls who don't wear makeup, we don't know how to do makeup. But anyway, I might have known it was red. In the book, it was a much deeper, like a wine color, the dress that she made. So now they're fighting, and Carrie tells her mama she's got to stay. And okay, so now they're just arriving at prom, and Carrie's telling Tommy to stop. All right, whoops. So now they're at the prom, and we definitely have this sense that it's absolutely magical. I mean, there's stars everywhere. They've done such a good job decorating, you know. They've only got a few minutes left, so let's just make it fast here. And there's Mr. Jardin, or sorry, Miss Collins in the movie. And everybody's happy, and Carrie just gets this 1 minute, you know, and you really do want things to end up okay. And it's so sad, and Tommy's so nice to her. So you know, it's unfortunate that he ends up being brained by the slop buckets. Okay, so now they're pulling their double cross, and they're just switching all the ballots. So of course we know what's coming next. Got an ad. It's running. All right, so now there's one thing I did notice when I rewatched this last week was just how drawn out this scene was. Like, they really built the tension, and that's another great thing that DePalma does in this movie, and that's that they did more in the 70s. They do it in Jaws. It's that Hitchcock thing, and Brian DePalma is very heavily influenced by Hitchcock, of course. You know, Hitchcock always said there is a bomb under the table. So knowing that it's there, but not knowing when it's going to go off or what's going to happen, it creates a great deal of tension, far more than just coming in and blowing stuff up. Like Chandler's Law, right? All right. So now the blood's all over Carrie. Everybody's laughing at her. And Carrie's having a flashback to her mom. And now she's destroying the gym, and it's all terrible and tragic. I know, this is just like, just talking through my way through it. So if you remember reading the book, one of the main things that really was left out of all of the versions of Carrie, although actually it's been a long time since I saw the 2002 Carrie, but she walked home, excuse me, and she destroyed the town as she walked home too. She blew up the gas station. She, you know, let all the hydrants out so that nobody could put out any fires. You know, she just destroyed the town. So that was left out. And then I'm going to leave this. I've got to turn off the camera soon. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. So anyway, that's a little bit of my review of Carrie. It was Stephen King's first novel, and as you know, it was based on a couple of girls that he knew in high school and a couple of the kids that he taught at the Hampton Academy. You know, he saw both sides of the table as a teacher and when he was a student, and that, you know, he said that sometimes they they survive, and sometimes they just don't. Sometimes what they call a tall poppy syndrome, that the one that tries to rise above gets cut off. So yeah, I enjoy revisiting Carrie from time to time. Hope you're reading lots of great horror. Have a great day.